Alright, Nanta, so the mini ARRANCAR Very Hard Guild Quest released earlier this week. We did a live stream on it. We also showcased yesterday that Quilge by himself can actually solo it at max transcendence. But I wanted to show some other teams, some other characters, other options that you can use to beat this particular quest. For the most part, thus far, this has definitely been the easiest Guild Quest week ever. There's just so many great options, characters that have been out for years that are still great to use here. Some of those we're going to showcase in this video. And I must say, it was nice having different options, different characters that we can potentially bring here. In the last couple of so weeks, it's basically been like 2 of the same characters. This time though, you really do have a wide selection of characters that you can bring here as mains or as sides. So with that said, let's actually showcase some of those teams. For the record though, because I don't want to say the exact build of every single character, because they are basically using the exact same accessories and links, for example. But our normal attack damage characters are going to be using golden chappies, hollow baits. Their links will of course consist of normal attack damage soul traits. In the case of Renji and SAFWY, our team boosters, they're going to be using recharge and full stam traits instead. Our SP characters are going to go with recharge, strong attack damage, full stamina combinations, with again a fortification pill, T-set, and also the ARRANCAR killer sticker. And then when it comes to the bonus abilities that we are using, all of them consist of full stamina and damage to drain, paralysis, or freeze. It really depends on the main character that we actually are using. Alright then, so our very first example run, we are going to be using once more a solo run, this time with Quilge. Now we did do that yesterday. We showcased him at 5 out of 5, seeing how far he can go, how fast you can beat the very hard guild quest, and to your potential surprise, he can beat the guild quest by himself when he is max transcended. As of right now, he's the only character that I've seen been able to do that, but the craziest part is you don't even need him max transcended. In this run, we're using a 1 out of 5 kill game. That is absolutely insane. I didn't think it was possible. That's why I didn't try it in yesterday's video, but no, here it is. Here's proof. He's a 1 out of 5 character, only level 10 SP, T20, with some pretty decent links, not the best by any means. And you can see we're going through this quest super quick. Quilge is an absolute beast of a character. And we did mention in yesterday's video, since he's doing this, it's very likely that Yachi Unhana should be very similar in her clear time when it comes to potentially soloing guild quests by herself, right? Quilge though, we're already into the final boss. We have 14 seconds to spare. In this case, we do have to get a tad bit lucky wanting to inflict stats augments, but with Quilge's Frenzy +2, you're more often than not inflicting stats augments, especially with that SA2. And you can see here, at 1 out of 5, even with making some mistakes, we were able to clear with 5 seconds to spare. Honestly, that's super impressive. You can't say anything bad about Quilge. He's an amazing character. He's been getting better with age. He's only been out for 2 months, but he can single-handedly solo guild quest by himself. Amazing character. Jumping into our second run, in this case, this is just an example of my best score for this particular week. We're using a 1-5 Quilge, a 2-5 Renji, and also a 5 out of 5 Nelliel. So she is actually doing quite a bit of damage here. Normal attack damage characters, as always, are good here. You're going to see us use the same set of NAD characters for the most part, because they just work really well together. Renji's here for the team boost. He also can do a respectable amount of damage. And then Nelliel also is here just for the main DPS. But alongside Quilge, he's also doing quite a bit of damage too. Now, this Quilge in particular is, again, just 1-5. It's my main account. I don't have a dupe of him. But you can see here, with Quilge in combination with our NAD characters, we're just doing a lot of damage. Originally, during my live stream, I swapped out Renji for SAFWY, the 1000-year Blood War version, but I chose to bring this Renji instead because he just provides better survivability. While it's true his boost is less, I do prefer the fact that he can actually keep me, and most importantly my Nelliel, at full stamina. And I feel like that overall gave us a tad bit more damage, and in that case, we were able to clear in, what, like 35 seconds? Honestly, a really good run. Going into our second run though, this is a 1 out of 5 team, once more using Quilge. We have a 1-5 Quilge, a 1-5 Renji, and also a 1-5 Kaname. Now, Kaname is actually a really good NAD character for this guild quest. He does have start barrier, so that helps him with his extra protection for the first 20 or so seconds in the quest, but he also does do more damage in guild quest too. So I chose to bring him over Nelliel because of the 2 characters, they both do more damage in guild quest. Kaname does do overall more damage, right? And if I'm using both of them at 1 out of 5, Kaname does make more sense to be used here. But in this case, again, we're just going for it super quick. Considering the clear time that we do have left over when the quest does end, I think you can definitely try this team without Quilge. I unfortunately ran out of time, so I couldn't actually demonstrate that. But as you can see here, we have like 30 seconds to spare, right? Like, for a 1-5 team, this isn't bad by any means. 20 seconds to spare. Yeah, you can definitely bring any other main character you want. even with less dupes, and they should also still clear relatively fast. With Quilge though, the crowd control that he does provide, he just allows you to bring like any other side, and you probably are going to beat it regardless. Because again, he can solo it by himself at 1 out of 5. Jumping into our fourth run, in this case we're using a 7th anniversary Uryu, Max Transcendent, a 5/5 Nelliel, and also a 2 out of 5 Renji. I wanted to see how the team performed without Quilge, because again, Quilge is kind of the cheat code for this week, but Uryu definitely performed relatively well, all things considered. He is a character that's been over a year now. You might have some dupes of him. Definitely worth bringing him if you have no other better option. There are a few things you need to keep in mind. He himself is not immune to freeze, so you want to kind of stand near the bottom of the map where we're standing. This is kind of the safe zone. Secondly, he doesn't provide much good crowd control, if any crowd control at all. So ideally, you want to have someone like Renji on your team to provide the barriers. That really does help here. And also, you want to probably use your soul bomb more so in the middle point. We kind of saved our soul bomb for the final boss here, because the final boss is technique this time. But once you do use your soul bomb, you know, you're building up the gauge, you apply the debuff, you pretty much clear the final boss really quick. In this case though, one thing I did miss here that I never really thought about with the other characters is the fact that he doesn't start the quest with 70% of the gauge at full completion. It took a while for us to build up the gauge and get the benefits of said gauge, but someone like Nini and Bruno, for example, they get their max damage output within like the first 10 seconds against the first boss. Uryu though, he has to build it up. And that can take it upwards to 20 seconds, so keep that in mind. I would probably recommend using your soul bomb near the midway point. Again, we didn't, and that overall meant that we only had the gauge once or twice near the end. There's definitely a lot more optimization that you could do in this particular run. Again, using your soul bomb near the midway point, not holding out to the end, because when you do use soul bomb, you know, it builds up the gauge by around 50%. Soul bomb in the second or third boss definitely is going to be the play there, and that should actually hopefully speed up your run. But regardless, Uryu did perform quite well as a lead. His soul bomb debuff definitely allows you to go through one boss super quick, and we actually got a quite respectable clear time, all things considered. Going into our next run, we've actually dimmed the brightness, because I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard to see where you are, especially when you're using 1000-Year Blood of Rukia. When you transform, you go all white, you have a barrier around you, I can barely see where I'm standing. So hopefully, with me adjusting the brightness and also the contrast, maybe it makes it easy to see exactly what's happening in this quest. But one thing I will say is that Rukia was actually quite solid here. The fact that she can inflict freeze on any boss and have an increased chance to do so for the first 10 seconds when transformed was really clutch, because you freeze the enemies, you stop them from doing damage to you, you keep your teammates safe, and then you also do more damage to those frozen enemies, which again you can give to your sides with bonus abilities. Lucky for us though, the final boss is a technique character, so while us, you know, teammates can also do a lot of damage, so can we. And we're doing a respectable amount of damage to one device, and we were actually able to clear this quest with 26 seconds to spare. Didn't think Rukia would be this good in this quest, but yeah, she honestly was really good. Didn't really get a chance to use it in the immediate Espada Guild quest, unfortunately, but that mainly comes down to the fact that the sides aren't really that good. In a week like this, where you have access to really good NAD characters, you can use someone like Rukia as a main and be quite successful with it. On to our next one though, I wanted to see how Beyond Bankai Mayuri does perform, because remember, he does have the Trap SA3, which does have a very high chance to inflict paralysis and also, of course, poison. Now, in this case, the team did perform relatively well. I was liking the performance. Unfortunately though, one thing I did notice prior to this was that we're kind of finding it hard to actually survive. There were times where, like, if I didn't have a strong attack ready, the team was very open to attacks. And because, unfortunately, I didn't own the New Year's Renji to provide us with the barriers, which would have made this team significantly better, maybe not, I'm not too sure, we did choose to bring Quilge instead, because we needed that extra crowd control. While it's true, our SA3 is pretty much guaranteed to inflict paralysis, there are still going to be times where you might be open to attacks, because not all the time is that SA3 going to be ready. But I will say, the trap effect here was actually quite good. Unfortunately, Mayuri's damage output isn't really as great to follow up on it. It definitely isn't bad, but, you know, compared to some of the newer characters, it definitely is a tad bit lower to what we are getting nowadays, right? But since the final boss was a technique character, we were able to use our soul bomb that applied the weakened defense. We then used our SA3. We ourselves at that point was also doing a lot of damage. Mayuri, not a bad lead. Definitely not the best. You need to have that extra crowd control with Quilge or a barrier booster. And if you have Quilge, if I'm being honest, you're better off just using Quilge as the main. But regardless, he is a character you can use the main. He can clear the quest just fine. Not a bad lead. And that then takes us into the final quest, where we're now using a Max Transcended, for the most part. He's level 10 SP, level 10 focus. 1000-Year Blood for Toshiro. Remember, he did get a resurrection like a month or two ago, and he did pick up the SP boost. Honestly, not a bad character, but I think most of the damage here is coming from our sides, I will be honest. But he's a decent main. Unfortunately, what you are seeing here, and this is probably the biggest problem, is that we kept getting inflicted with freeze. That really did suck. When we could do damage and when we did have the SP boost, which to be fair was kind of rare because his strong attacks don't have that many hits to it, we are doing a respectable amount of damage. His SA3, thanks to the Havoc, does have a really good range to it. It's very likely to take out all the mini-mobs in any given wave. But again, if I'm being honest, most of the work was being done by our side characters, right? I was just sitting back in the corner, in the safe zone to try and avoid getting frozen. And whenever I had a strong attack, I would go up, use the attack. Final boss, of course, we're going to use our sub bomb there. That applied weaken defense. I did give that to him as a bonus ability. Since we weren't reliably inflicting freeze, I thought weaken defense in his case would be better. And we went through the final boss super quick. And again, a very similar clear time what we have been getting throughout the entire video, around 20 seconds to spare. This one on the lower end, 16 seconds. Hey, it's beatable with Toshiro if you have him. Even if he's not the most optimal character, it was kind of cool to see that using him as a lead at the very least, we were still able to beat the very hard guild quests. So, with that said, lads, that was the video for today, going over some of the teams I have been using over the last couple of so days to beat this quest. Nad characters are definitely key here, as always. They really do help out your team here. They're the ones doing consistent damage. It's nice that we have a lot of options here, a lot of premium options. Nelliel in particular is a really good character for this quest, that's someone that we used in most of our teams, and she's a premium character that's been out in the game for quite some time. In fact, I believe she was actually the first character designed for guild quests, so it's nice to see her finally be usable in this mode again. I had some fun using it in my team, but I guess one thing to keep in mind in the future is that if you ever want to beat this quest, just get Quilge. It's the easiest and least expensive route to take because you only need to get one character. With the other characters and teams that we were using in this video, it was a team effort, using free characters with dupes invested into them. With Quilge by himself at 1 out of 5, he's clearing the quest with like 15 seconds to spare. So of course you could invest into Beyond Bankai Mayuri, 1000 Year Blood War Rukia, Renji, Nelliel for example. Kaname, there's a lot of characters that are good for this week that definitely are worth investing in, keep that in mind. But for the least amount of investment and the easiest time possible, yeah, just get Quilge. It's like, luckily he's not the only character you need for this quest. Again, it's beatable without him. This isn't like the Squad 0 week where if you don't have Macy and a good enough team, you're not beating it. You can beat it without him, but if you have him, he's soloing it by himself. Really good character, but again, there's some other good characters that you can use instead of him if you don't have him, because I understand not everyone does. Ultimately, as always, when it comes to the very hard guild quest, it comes down to your account, what characters you have, and working with what you got. In this case, this is what I had, this is what I used, and those are the teams that I wanted to showcase in today's video. With that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys next time. Take care, and peace.